Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Virtual events are not new. We are not reinventing the wheel, but we are now transitioning many more experiences, events, and connections through this seemingly simple but complex virtual world. Today, we hope to unscramble some of the messaging out there and help you feel a little bit more confident and inspired by the online experience. The world has changed, and so can we. Change doesn't mean that we need to take the experience, passion, and focus away from events and customer experiences. We just need to be innovative, agile, and focused. My name is Libby, and I'm the General Manager of AV 24/7. I have the pleasure of working with an inspiring, creative, and dedicated team that want to share with you all that we know about online events and give you some tips and tricks to help you navigate the evolving space. We're excited to welcome you into our virtual world. This is our AV 24/7's permanent studio, which is located in Caringbah, Sydney. We are streaming to you via Zoom and live on Facebook. We ask that you post your questions in the Zoom chat or also ask on Facebook, and we'll answer them later in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. We have a jam-packed 45 minutes. There is so much to know about virtual events, and we have a really diverse group of attendees, from beauticians, fashion, real estate, banking, legal, event producers, education, and many, many more. We will do our very best to touch on opportunities across all markets, but let's call these virtual events 101. Over the coming weeks, we look forward to deep diving into specific industries and opportunities, and we also invite you to connect with us for more information and training. Okay, so let's bring up the program. So we're going to be talking all things virtual events. What are they? Why host one? Types? What can go wrong? Streaming services and meeting platforms? Keeping your audience engaged? The future of virtual events, when to call in the experts, and we have our very special guest, Shelly Horton, talking presentation techniques, and then some time for some questions. So let's start at the very beginning. What are virtual events? Simply put, virtual events are the coming together of people in a structured and intentional way in an online environment. Just like live events, these can be business, commercial, and socially based events. When you get your creative juices going, the options are endless. They are not new, but they can be unique to you and your brand. Hosting events can be anything from live video, audio with only slide presentations, part pre-record and part live of both options, on-demand events and training and development style programs. There's also virtual exhibitions, trade shows, and many, many more. You're currently part of a webinar. These focus mostly on information giving rather than collaboration. Your live event translation of a plenary keynote, a panel session, for those of you in the education sector, it's perfect for a lecture, but not a class. Webinars have similar interaction capabilities to plenaries with polling, Q&As, and potential to have multiple guests and presenters throughout the session. Later, we'll touch on collaboration services and discuss how to integrate the two for a more holistic representation of the standard conference day. So next up, why host a virtual event? There are many reasons to host a virtual event, whether it's for revenue generation, budget restrictions, travel or social barriers, which obviously is quite paramount now, but that is relevant at any time. And also having the ability to reach a much wider audience. That also has many benefits. Virtual events provide a level of convenience to an attendee with the ability for them to watch from anywhere in the world and potentially at any time with on-demand services. Watch out though, it's much harder to engage attendees from the comfort of their own home than in a seat at a venue. Your content and user experience needs to be valuable and thoroughly thought out. Transitioning to 100% virtual can allow you access to high-level speakers and educators without the cost of travel and production costs. Virtual events can be really budget-friendly. Be careful though. There is a magic that exists in live events that is really, really hard to replicate. Going virtual just simply to save money may see your results fall just as fast as your budget. Now, there's also the element of data collection. Much like live events, data collection is extremely beneficial. Online events have many great capabilities for data collection through the registration process, online polls, post-event follow-ups. The polls give you real-time data of how people are engaging and also help you to curate and focus your presentation in certain areas. Let's give one a try now. What sector are you in? Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds to answer this one. A few more seconds to go, get your answers in. Great, okay, so let's have a look at the answers. Wow, that's fantastic. We have lots of event managers here and a few different other industries. It's really great to see such a broad group of people interested in this space. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's move on. Types of virtual events. Okay, so let's start with the direct stream. So these are no interaction and no audience feedback. They have the ability to pre-record, which can be really beneficial in many situations. This may be live to social media, direct to your website or someone else's website, or for a training program. These are things like company announcements, training videos, press statements, media releases, and product updates. Now, webinars, we touched on this before. Webinars focus mostly on information giving rather than collaboration, but has the ability to engage audiences on many levels. This is your plenary, your product launch, your large group training, keynote, panel session, lecture, or performance. Then there's the online meeting solution. These are the go-to for smaller groups and teams that want to encourage collaboration. These can contain up to 1,000 people on some platforms. However, privileges and planning need to be a priority for larger groups. Online meetings are perfect for small plenaries, breakout rooms, networking events, product demonstrations, classrooms, one-on-one meetings, sales presentations, social catch-ups, dates perhaps. Online meetings for smaller groups have the ability to have their own plenary session and breakout spaces where we have the ability to be able to control the attendees' journey from one room to another and back to the main space at any point in time required. You can actually host up to 50 breakout rooms at a time. Then there's also the interactive 3D and VR events. These I like to call gamified virtual spaces, where you have the ability to navigate at your own speed. Virtual or real-life captured spaces with the added benefit of interaction. This could be your online version of a trade show, a festival, exhibition, real estate walkthrough, venue sales process, or a more holistic product promotion solution. Okay, so why don't we see what that might look like in comparison to your standard live event? Let's say we have a multi-day conference with an attached exhibition. Should we say, maybe use a hair show as an example? We would use our direct stream to launch the upcoming event details with key press details ahead of the event. On the first day, we'd welcome in our guests via a webinar link and talk them through the upcoming days, introduce our key speakers, and watch a live demonstration. Guests then can be invited to register for small workshops with their favourite suppliers or hairdressers through online meeting platforms, and they'll be helped through this journey. When they've got some spare time, guests will be invited into our virtual exhibition space and walk through at their own pace. They can ask questions about products with their sales reps, take advantage of great deals by buying products on the spot. Reps can even provide free samples to potential customers. There is also the opportunity for appointment setting and pre-arranged one-on-one product demonstrations. Now, the day is out and our guests want to get to know each other. So we've set up a networking lounges based on their interests to help people connect and unwind with a glass of wine via managed meetings. Now, after this has all happened, we've kept the recording of all of our experiences. We're going to use the sessions for online learning and development in the future, and then have key event highlights for social media and marketing purposes. With a bit of creativity, you can really come up with anything. So maybe we have a look at it from a different perspective. What about, say, a national global sales conference perhaps? What could that look like? We bring teams together every year. It's so important to stay connected and on the same page. You know, what are our goals? What are our new products available? Celebrate our staff and their achievements. Missing this would be a big blow to any business. In our new virtual world, it would be different, but it doesn't mean we can't meet the same objectives. Collaboration, inspiration, team building, networking, product training, and a bit of fun. So our guests ahead of time will be sent a curated virtual event box. This will include some brand-specific items like worksheets, notepads, pen, coffee, tea, some healthy snacks to keep them energized, and some other elements to keep them inspired and physically connected in a virtual world. I'll share with you later a company that's doing just this. On the day, our staff or attendees will join our virtual plenary. We'll talk them through the sales results and hear our CEO talk through the past year and fire everyone up for a fantastic day. After a short break, our attendees will come back to a facilitated breakout rooms where they'll be planning and curating ideas for the next 12 months. After this, we will all come back to the plenary and hear from an inspiring speaker. Now, lunch will be fun. We'll all order our lunch with our Deliveroo vouchers and sit on our virtual tables of 10 and have some great conversations and meet new people. After lunch, our product managers are going to walk us through our products in VR, giving us a 360 view and give us a chance to ask questions and learn and be ready for the next year. Back to the plenary, we close off with an inspiring speech. Now for the fun part. We're all excited for the awards presentation. Feel free to get dressed up. It's going to be a really, really fun night. In our virtual event box, we received some really lovely wines. So we're going to start out the night with a virtual wine tasting. Yum. Then to our surprise, our organisation has organised a performance for us from a celebrity isolating on the Greek islands. But hey, today he's here in our world. Let's get the awards started. Top up your glasses, people. We're on our webinar and we're walking through the awards. We see our nominations, and then as soon as the winner is announced, we get to see their reaction live on screen. And you know what? A few seconds later, their doorbell rings and their prize has been delivered right on time. We finish off the night with a few drinks and a chance to mingle in smaller groups whilst listening to an awesome DJ together. Sounds pretty fun, hey? Just a few ideas to get the creative juices flowing. Let's do another poll, shall we? What sort of virtual events are you most interested in? Okay, we'll give it another 10 seconds, people. Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay, let's have a look at the answers, shall we? Fantastic. Well, very mix of people looking at different areas, but I'm going to have to say my pick is all of them. All right, let's move on, shall we? What can go wrong with virtual events? Now, obviously, there's lots of things that go wrong, and we need to think not just of the good things, but of the things we need to be mindful of. Like with live events, there's a lot of potential issues. If you don't prepare correctly, don't have the right skills, or don't know when it's time to call in the experts, things can go terribly wrong. I'm going to cover the top 5. 1, internet speed. This is going to have to be the most important thing on the virtual space. There is an ideal and a minimum internet speed required for streaming. Additionally, internet speeds can, as you would know, can change at any point in time. It's really important to have your presenters check their internet speeds several times throughout the day prior to the live event happening. Number 2, technical issues. Now, with a virtual event, you don't have control over your presenters' laptops. Well, not their physical ones in front of them. So if your presenter's laptop goes flat, it shuts down, does an automatic update, this could obviously put a big issue and a big strain on the success of your event. But there are redundancies that can be put in place to keep the conversation and make sure that your brand is looking professional. Number 3, this is a really important one, safety and security. If you get this wrong, this could have detrimental effects. We highly recommend that all virtual meetings are password protected. But with webinars, it's not 100%, you don't necessarily need password protected, but having the correct settings in place so your guests can't post profanity or links is highly important. For those here as well from the education sector, make sure that you're using a professional service that have operators with working with children checks for any events being hosted with under 18s. Over half of our operators have these, but make sure you check that. Additionally, it's a good idea to ask your supplier to show them their privacy policy, but also ask them to sign a confidentiality agreement if you're having very confidential information within your meetings. Number 4, not giving enough attention. Events take time to plan, right? And a virtual event is no different. Presentations, event management, production schedules, and rehearsals are all extremely important. Leave this off, expect issues. Number 5, untrained speakers. Not understanding the requirements and differences in the live events and transitioning to virtual can have detrimental effects, both on the confidence and the attendee experience. So make sure your presenters are trained and ready to go. Okay, let's talk about online meeting platforms. So if we were to go through all the options available in online meeting platforms or webinar streaming services, we'd probably need all week, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to just focus on 3 meeting platforms that you can use in your business at the moment. And then over the coming weeks, we'll look at a few different options and continue to give you information about those. So Google Meet, which was formerly called Google Hangouts. It has full integration with G Suite products and workflow. You can jump straight into the video calls directly from emails or calendar notifications. You have the ability to share screen and broadcast presentations online and all other users within the meeting. No additional software required to run the meeting, can all be run from within the browser. Next up, Zoom. So we're using Zoom today. Zoom has great management for larger meetings across multiple platforms. The sound, video, chat quality, even in a low internet bandwidth, is actually quite impressive. It has an intuitive user interface. It's easy for anyone to use. It has an on-screen whiteboard feature, which is great for brainstorming and collaboration. It has extensive management control available. Meeting hosts can force mute participants. You can mute participants on entry. You can lower all hands, pin specific people to screen, which is all really great for your technical manager. It also has plugins available for all major suites for easy integration into the existing company workflows. Now, Microsoft Teams, which is the new version of Skype for business. It has a great integration across the whole Office 365 collaboration suite. Has the ability to present a PowerPoint slide directly. Pre-meet screen allows you to easily check that your audio and video is working correctly before entering the meeting. It has a background blur feature and a great background noise removal. These give you the ability to present from more places as you have to worry less about your surrounds. Okay, so let's move on. How to keep your audience engaged. Wow, there's so many different options, and I know that you guys are going to come up with some great ones that are just unique to you as well. As we touched on earlier, engagement is much more difficult in an online environment than in a live event space, as you don't have control over the environment, and energy is hard to pass on and keep. But don't worry, we've got some ideas for you. So the top one would have to be, and I think I mentioned it a few times, but rehearse. Think about your schedule and how you want your audience to feel. Work your way back from that. Next is polling, Q&As. Make sure that they're thought out though, and they're timed well, and they're relevant to your audience. The next is entertainment. Now, there is no reason why you can't still entertain. Think virtual magicians, artists, singers, etc. There's opportunities are endless. Now, I've been thinking a little bit about those in the professional services who run the lunch and learns and lunch meetings. I heard a great idea the other day. When your guests log in, they are provided with a Deliveroo or Uber Eats voucher. They order their lunch for the meeting and basically give you that experience that they would have had in the boardroom, just virtually. The other one we get spoken to about a lot lately is actually team building. There are so many cool ideas, and we'll continue to share them with you. One company, Be Challenged, is really leading the way on online team building. And after the webinar today, we'll send you through some great packages and ideas for you. Next is environment. Now, particularly for your CEOs or your large-scale presenters and your big conferences, the environment makes a big difference as to how people on the other side are interacting and feeling about the content being delivered. It's a really great choice to bring in a stylist like Valiant Hire to spruce up your space, or use a studio like the one I'm in now, or you can also bring in cameras and lights to bring your home studio up a level. Now, there is also another really cool business about to launch, and it's called Virtual Event Box. It's curated event boxes specifically tailored to your brand to help you physically connect in a virtual world. Think branded notepads, healthy snacks, wine, branded collateral. And the really great part about this business is they're working with suppliers that have been significantly impacted due to current situations. So you can do good at the same time. Okay, wow. So let's talk about the future of events. Well, that is the million-dollar question. Much like the future of live events, the future of events, there are so many unanswered questions. But let's not treat virtual events as a stopgap, a solution just because we have to. This is our world for now. Let's have fun with it. Let's create fun and interactive experience. Let's make great studios. Let's stay connected, keep the conversation going. And who knows where this might take us. There is longevity in virtual events. We can use this in conjunction with live events for years to come. I see VR, augmented and extended reality making huge leaps into the virtual event space, and the ease of online solutions being streamlined. I also see some incredible ideas coming out of the event producer space with innovation and creativity when working with technical teams. This will be endless, surprising and exciting. So I'm really excited to see what you all are coming up with as well. Okay, so next question is when to call in the experts. So firstly, is if you're not technically minded and have never hosted an online webinar before or meeting before, if it's a fairly simple meeting, potentially some training or backup support could be your answer. Our general recommendation is that if when your event was live, you required technical support, say an AV operator assistance, support with your run sheet, it's best to have a technical team supporting you on your live version of your event. You're also going to want to think about calling in the experts when you have any of the other concerns or elements in your virtual event. One is, we spoke about this before, internet issues. There is the opportunity to bring in backup internet solutions, but you need to do your checks and balances before, and we can make sure that that's set up for you, ready to run and keeping you professional. Video sharing on some platforms also can be quite complex. You can get a little bit of jitters when you're trying to screen share. There are ways that you can get around this with other equipment and technical services. So if you're thinking about doing that, it's best to talk to someone. The other thing that can be a little complex is panel discussions. They need to be thought out really well and discussed and rehearsed with your panel. And sometimes it's a great idea to have someone monitoring and running that side of the event for you. The other thing that can be a little complex are breakout rooms. They take up a lot of time. So if you don't have a technical person running them, if they're not that complex, you're going to want at least someone from your office that's not involved in the meeting to be able to do that. But best to get the experts in if you're having trouble there. Now, speaking of experts, I would love to introduce you to our very special guest, Shelly Horton. Shelly is the personification of confidence. She is a journalist, she's a TV presenter, MC, and runs her own company, Shell Shock Media, where she teaches presentation skills, improving confidence, media training, and how to nail virtual meetings. This makes her the perfect guest for today's webinar. Welcome, Shelly, and thank you so much for your time today.
Hello, Libby. I'm so excited I can join you. This is fantastic. I love that you've done a pivot so quickly.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you. And you had a really busy Saturday. I heard you actually ran an 8-hour virtual event. How was that?
It was 8 hours, and can I tell you, it was absolutely exhausting, but at the same time, exhilarating, because we didn't have a single technical stuff up. We did have experts helping us, so they were running breakout rooms. I was hosting all day, plus doing all of the interviews with panels. So we had 20 participants who had all dialed in. They were all medical experts who were hoping to get into the media. And then we had 5 different panels throughout the day, each with 3 experts on them. So I felt like I was patting my head and rubbing my tummy at the same time, because there's just a whole other layer of stress when you're doing it virtually that you don't have when you're doing it up on stage.
Oh, so true. So obviously this is, kind of second nature to you. Well, it is second nature to you, Shelly. But for everyone listening, what are the key differences to presenting on stage in a live environment to presenting on camera on someone's screen?
So you know what, I'm not even going to say that it's second nature to me, because I'm actually finding it difficult. And I have worked in TV for 25 years, and I host and MC events of 2,000 people, and I am finding that it's very different. The biggest tip I can probably give everyone who's watching now is it's all about your eye line. So the biggest trap to fall into is to just be staring at yourself the whole time. Can you see how my eye line changes then? And I'm just like looking at myself, and that's great. We're like budgies. It's like a budgie in a mirror. It's very hard to not look at yourself, but you have to focus, and you really need to zoom on in and go straight down that camera lens only. So a trick that I do, and I've got it on my screen right now, is I've got a big piece of paper with the word look and an arrow pointing to the camera on my computer. And I have a Post-it note that's covering up my own face, because it's so tempting just to look at yourself and how you are on camera, and that's not connecting with people at home.
Oh, wow, that's great. I'm actually going to take that one with the picture and the arrow. I think that's a fantastic idea. So, Shelly, how do you think people need to adapt their messaging and transition and energy transitioning from live to virtual?
I would say, as someone who performs in live events, I get a lot of energy from the crowd. So that's actually very difficult when you're just performing to a little black dot. So you need to prepare that you're not going to be getting any energy back. So what I did is I found that I would give 10 times the energy to try and get the reaction. I like being able to see people who are actually in on the conference. I had a few little 20-second dance parties and things where I got people to get up and do star jumps and things like that. I want people to feel connected and part of it, because I feel that with these sort of virtual events, it's very easy for everything to get a bit squashed down and lacking in energy. And remember, people are just sitting at home in their office. You've got to keep their attention, so they need to be entertained.
Yeah, great tips. Yeah, I think that is probably one really difficult, not getting that energy back from people. It would have been great to have a big dance party on this event too, actually.
Next time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested to know, and we might have covered some of these already, But what are some of the mistakes people make when presenting on camera?
I think it's very easy to get caught up with just what you look like. And that's all that you really think about. And you don't think about your background. I mean, we have seen so many articles on 9Honey and pedestrian and things like that, where people have not thought about their background and they've had, an open toilet door, or they've had a naked flatmate walk past, or the kids, that BBC one where the kid walks on in the middle of a Skype interview. You've got to think about your surroundings as well as thinking about just you. And I think, it's funny when you think about people who've turned themselves into a potato for an entire lecture, but it's not going to help you professionally if you don't spend a little bit of time. Think about your backdrop, think about how you're presenting, and actually prepare to give the way you would if it was a live event.
Yeah, that's great. I remember seeing that one the other day with the lady talking and then her husband or father walking past with no pants on. So that was a really funny one.
I mean, it's entertaining for us, but not in the right way.
We're going to get some really great entertaining videos over the next 6 months on virtual events. So, it'd be great. Now, one of the most difficult transitions, in my opinion, is actually the panel segment. I see so many wandering eyes, speaking over the top of people, false starts. What are your thoughts on panel sessions and how to make them more professional?
This is probably my favorite thing to do because I am kind of like a door bitch at a nightclub anyway. I am very particular. I like to think of the MC in charge of a panel as the traffic cop. When you're doing things virtually, you need to be very specific and very clear. So what I did with the conference I did on Saturday is I told the participants the day before that they weren't to speak unless I said their name. So they weren't muted because they were the panel, but until I said their name, they couldn't speak. And there was no opportunity for them to interject or rebut. If they wanted to rebut, or if they felt that one participant was saying something that they didn't agree with, I got them to raise their hand. And when I visually saw that they had their hand up, I would then say their name and they could rebut. You have to be really controlled with this because that's where everything gets really messy, is when people are going and overlapping and you get a bit of lag and it really doesn't work. So being really clear. I also think it's important in this sort of situation that you do that prep beforehand and that you prep the questions, you do a technical check the day before, you make sure that the participants are comfortable with the questions, and if they haven't met the other people on the panel, that you do a virtual meetup so that they can actually meet each other and understand that we are all in this together and we want it to be an incredible event. So therefore, we've got to be generous, and particularly with all of the technical problems, just be a little bit slower.
Great tips. There are definitely some that I hadn't heard of, which is really, really great. Now, obviously, working inside a studio or in a television studio, you've got the luxury of having cameras and lights. Now, not all events will have the need or budget for quality camera setups or a professional virtual space. What are your top tips for those using phones or laptops for their virtual events?
I'm actually not against using computers and your phones for your event, as long as you think about it and make that work for you. So for example, if you don't have lights, right now I've got a ring light and 2 soft boxes, that's because I have a video production company. You are looking into my lounge room, by the way. But if you don't, natural light is your best friend. So what you need to do is set your computer up with your face looking out of the window so that you're getting that beautiful natural light, which is incredibly flattering. The other thing is, I want you to stand up. If you're sitting at your desk, first of all, the angle is going to be going on like that. You're going to have like 15 chins, but also if you're standing up, your energy will be more dynamic. So for a lot of people who may not have a stand-up desk at home, just prop it up on books. I don't mind how you do it. Prop it up on books, have your computer up nice and high, and have the camera at the top of your computer angled slightly down, because that's always more flattering and gives a bit of a killer jawline.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm actually standing today as well because if I sit, I move too much around. Yeah. I'm also wearing high heels, so I can't bounce up and down because I move a lot. So, it's a few different things to stay still. I don't like
Yeah, well,
that.
I'm actually barefoot because I find if I'm in heels, I wiggle too much. So for me, right. Bare feet makes me feel like I'm more connected. So again, that's about finding out what suits you. And you can only find that out by actually practicing.
Yeah, Great, great. And, for a lot of organisations, these virtual events are going to be their first and only opportunity to connect with their audiences, represent their brand, or retain clients. Getting it right the first time seems pretty important. If people don't have training or want a refresher about what's entailed, what can you tell me a bit about your training services?
Yeah, I certainly can. Look, I think this is actually an investment in yourself and your company because, as you know, if you get it wrong, it can go so wrong. So I do media training and presentation training, which Libby, you have done with me, and I think you are doing a brilliant job. So I'm like a proud mother hen right now. And I think that that's actually really important because often when you're working in your business, it's hard to even explain what you do because you're so in the thick of it. You need someone to help you polish those messages and make it nice and clear. Then I obviously, my video production company has pretty much ground to a halt thanks to COVID-19. So I've done a massive pivot and I've actually created an online course called Making Virtual Meetings Work. And that is mainly for people who are working from home and either their bosses are finding that the groups are not connected or they're feeling fearful of stepping up in front of a webcam. So I go through 20 chapters, 20 videos, and basically it only takes about an hour, but it will help you with your confidence, with some ideas on, like I've discussed today, angles, setting up your computer, lighting, and even just how the etiquette of a virtual meeting, of when to interject, how to keep things moving quickly, and also that it's important to keep things short and sharp because our attention spans are much shorter when we are online. So you need the things like you were discussing earlier of breakout rooms or polls or things where people feel like they can have a say and they can be part of it. So yeah, so that is brand new. I actually launched Making Virtual Meetings Work today. So it is brand new.
Amazing. So someone here could be the first customer potentially?
The absolute first. I love it.
Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, Shelley, are you okay to stick around for 5 minutes and answer some questions? We're going to send it out to the audience.
Certainly can. I would love to. And I will do my best. Remember, I've only just started doing virtual conferences myself, but I feel after doing one that I am now an expert.
No worries. Well, we only have a couple of minutes for questions. But what we're going to do is answer all of your questions offline if we don't get a chance to answer them. We're also going to send through the details of Shelley's course in our follow-up email as well. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions that have come through. One is for me, or for us, which is, do you require a virtual studio to run your event? Now, this has come through from Zoom. No, absolutely not. There are certain reasons why you might prefer to do this. Some people like to have someone else hold their hand through the process and make sure that it's really professional. You potentially might want to do this as well for a studio style if you're doing a pre-record. So you've got a little bit more flexibility with different camera shots. Okay, the next question is for you, Shelley. How would you prepare for an all-day conference as a speaker?
So for me, I always allow at least a day of preparation. So I would work with the organizer to find out what the script points are, to make sure if there are any sponsors that need to be acknowledged, all of those sort of things. So I know that I'm hitting the points that they need to make sure that everyone's happy. But then what I do is I then turn it into Shelley Speak. So I try and make sure it doesn't sound like marketing material. It sounds a little bit more fun and the way that I would say it. What I definitely did beforehand was I just got up and had a bit of a practice as well. So I think having a technical run through the day before is vital, particularly because this is fairly new for a lot of people. They just need to have had a go at it before they get up and are doing it live. And then the other thing is Gatorade, Hydrolyte, Red Frogs, whatever you need to keep your energy up for that day. I in the conference that I did on Saturday, there were some nutritionists that weren't particularly happy that I wasn't having like dried apple rings, but they said whatever gets you through, because it is quite exhausting. I can tell you, it was a 9 to 5 conference and I was flat on my back on the couch by 6 o'clock with a very large glass of wine and I was asleep by 9. And that is unheard of for me. So it does really zap your energy.
Yeah, great tips. I mean, I'm exhausted and I've only been talking for 30 minutes, so I kind of only imagine what an 8-hour session would be like. We've got another question coming through. Is there a limit on how many presenters or panelists you can have at one time? The answer depends on the platform that you're using. But for example, for Zoom Pro, it depends on obviously your licensing capabilities. You can actually have up to 100 presenters. Now, I don't know whether you necessarily want to do that, but if you were doing a meeting session with 50 breakouts and had 2 presenters in each room, that is actually possible. Okay, so we've got a question, Shelley. What is the biggest challenge you faced with presenting when something has failed?
Yeah, I think that is the fear that you feel. So I'm lucky in that I've done enough live events where the video doesn't play or the tech fails or the microphone turns off. So I'm always used to having a little bit up my sleeve so I can ad lib. And that might include doing a quick poll, or it might be talking to the audience or sharing an anecdote. I think these days, like in the crisis that we're in, I have found that people are very generous and they don't judge too quickly if there are technical mistakes, because we are all learning. And, you know, let's just say national broadband, it didn't expect 20 million people to be on at once. So there are going to be a few, you know, jagged pieces, but I have found that people have been very understanding. But yes, I would just suggest if you are briefing a speaker or an MC, just ask them to have an extra 5 minutes of related content up their sleeves that they can draw on at any time. And the best case scenario is you don't ever need it, but it's always Murphy's law that if you haven't prepared it, then you will need it.
Yeah, great ideas. You know, we even look at different redundancies, like having people phone in on their phones, just in case their video goes down, you can switch to audio. You know, so it's great that's a really good point about having presenters to make sure that they have extra content, because yeah, that's one of those things that you never can tell. We have another question. Can you tell me the name of the virtual event company that sends out event packages? This is called Virtual Event Box. Now, I believe it may not even, the website might be up, it might not be, but if it isn't, it should be up any moment now. It's just launching. So get in there and check that one out. Now, the next question I had come in for me is, what support do we have helping today? So in our studio here in Caringbah, we actually have a control room as well, which is completely set back from our studio space to make sure that there's not additional people in an area that is not necessary, maintaining social distancing laws. But we've got 2 operators in our control room, and we also have someone helping send the questions through and, you know, put my notes through as well. So there's lots of people assisting throughout this process too. Okay, so the next one is, can you view everyone on screen when hosting an event? It depends on the platform again. For example, for a webinar, only panelists can see each other and the attendees will not see, the attendees can only see the panelists and the panelists will see each other. However, in a meeting, you can see everyone, but you can obviously only see a certain amount on the screen, but can scroll through and see everybody else. There is an option to turn people's cameras off, though, in that situation. Okay, Shelley.
Can I jump in there for 1 second, Libby?
Yes.
So
Yes.
one thing I would say as a presenter when you're trying to run a conference, even if it is 50 people or more, if you do have the option of seeing people in their video, it is really helpful. You can see when people are like losing attention. You can see where you need to amp up the energy. So I like to have that option. We've got Zoom Pro that we are using. So when I'm doing my 20-second dance party, I can see if someone's just sitting there and sipping on their tea, and I can call them out. So I think it's good to have a chance to check out everyone who's paying attention, and also it keeps them alert and engaged because they never know when they're going to be called on.
Yeah, I actually really love that. And I think that's really important to think about how the meeting is set out. So obviously with a webinar where it's not available, you can, that's more the plenary information giving style. But when you're thinking about having more interactive space, having smaller groups helps with that interaction process. But also there's the option for larger. It's just a little bit harder to kind of keep everyone at toe, I guess. Now, the next question is coming for you, Shelley, is what should people wear on camera? And actually, I think this might be our last question because we've just gone over time.
Okay, very quickly, as you can see, bright colours work. So, sorry, Libby, I'm going to mark you down for your
I'm in trouble.
black. But bright block colours, it's all about making it stand out, and the more that you're in screen, the more that they will see. Do not wear stripes. That's probably the biggest tip I can give you, because you'll find that the stripes strobe. And if you're wearing a top that's strobing, no one's going to actually be listening to what you're saying. They're going to be looking at the stripes. And then finally, I would just say avoid too much of a pattern in your clothing, because that can also give the same effect as strobing. But you can't go wrong with bright block colours. So think of your reds, blues, greens, pinks, yellows. And for blokes, it's what you feel comfortable with. I would always prefer a blue suit over a black suit, and make sure that your shirt's not white. Go for like one of the pale pinks or a blue or a green, and then you'll be nailing it.
Oh, amazing. Fantastic. Well, I'll have to update my wardrobe because anyone knows me, I'm mostly black and white. But, look, we've just gone over time, and it's really important to make sure that you respect people's time. So we're going to finish up now. We've had such a fantastic day, and, we very much hope that the insights that we've shared will help you in your virtual journey. Remember, we're all in this together. This could be our new norm for a really long time. So learn as much as you can, have fun with it, stay connected. Thank you so much, Shelley, and we really look forward to connecting with you all soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.